This is Health in Real Life, honest conversations about women, wellness, and the life happening in between. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me again here at Health in Real Life. I am Athena Newell, family and functional medicine nurse practitioner, and I'm so excited for today's conversations. One of the things I love most about what we do here at Stout Wellness is creating spaces where women can have their stories heard and honestly believed. And stories are what reminds us that we're not alone in the challenges that we face. So today I have the privilege of sitting down with our friend Whitney Bass, who is the founder of Grow Her. She is a wife, mom, and entrepreneur, and someone whose personal health journey has shaped not only her life, but the community she is building around her. And we're going to talk to her about motherhood, health, resilience, advocacy, and the power of finding people who can walk alongside you through difficult seasons. So my hope is that every woman in this room leaves feeling encouraged, empowered to trust her own instincts, and reminded that healing is rarely happening in isolation. Let's get into it. So we are here with Whitney Bass today. Hi, Whitney.
Hey.
So Whitney is one of my great friends that I met through the Go and Tell Gals Amplify cohort. And it was such a beautiful experience because I felt like we showed up at that, retreat, kind of like stripping away some of like the vulnerability. So we really got to know each other really quickly.
Yeah.
Then I got to hear about her autoimmune journey and the Grow Her community. So I just feel like she has so much to offer women through the health experiences that she is in and through being a mom and the communities that she's building. So I would love to hear you just kind of kick us off, introduce yourself, tell us more about who you are and what your current season of life looks like.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And I can't echo that enough. Athena and I met and became really fast friends at the Amplify retreat weekend for sure. And once I found out what she did, I couldn't wait to tell her how the work she does has impacted my life. And just honestly, I'm like a testimony for literally like this holistic view on healthcare. And so when she asked me to do this, I just was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. So as she said, my name is Whitney Bass. I live in the Minneapolis, Minnesota area. So long ways away from the beautiful Charleston area, which I can't wait to revisit soon. I have two young boys, so 10 and 4, and I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur in the hair industry for 20 years and owned my bridal hair company for the last 10. And then I also do hair behind the chair a couple of days a week in a salon studio as well. And I teach in the industry. And then more recently, I formed a female entrepreneur community group called Grow Her Community. We've launched now, this is our 3rd year, and we've just been growing like crazy. It's been a beautiful thing to see women of kind of like-mindedness in kind of their career journeys kind of come together, share wisdom, share experiences, and everybody gets kind of growth from that. So yeah, we have some really big things on the horizon for the community as a whole, and yeah, it's just been a great journey.
Oh, I cannot wait to talk more about that because I have so many questions about like how that became, part of like your journey. But if you don't mind sharing, obviously I know a little bit more on my end, but can you share a little bit about your health journey and your autoimmune chapter of life?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was 18 years old, I had just graduated hair school, and I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and not just Crohn's in general. So Crohn's is an IBD, which irritable bowel disease. So, and it was pretty widespread amongst my whole colon. At that time, I had been the worst case that my GI had ever seen. And honestly, they didn't really know what to do with me. We tried a bunch of medications, including steroids, immunosuppressants. I'd be on this journey of like one for a couple years. It would work okay. Then it wouldn't. And then I'd try another one. And in the meantime, I was having a lot of issues with fistulas developing in my colon. Even so, I've had a few fistula surgeries over the years as well. And just nothing really seemed to be working like long term. Everything would be kind of like band-aided, right, for a period of time. And then it would kind of not work, and then I'd kind of be back to square one, and I'd be passed to this person and this person and this person. And then more recently, after I had my second child, I ended up having a really serious episode where I went septic, and fistula wasn't even like the worst of what was going on, and they're pretty bad if you've ever, hopefully never experienced one, but if you know anything about fistulas, they're not great.
So painful on top of having an autoimmune disease that is painful.
Yeah, absolutely. And what ended up happening is like sepsis was literally exploding in the bottom of my colon and feeding up throughout. And so by the time I had hit medical care, it was like less than 2 hours and I was in surgery. Like it was very, very serious condition. And through that surgery, I had met a surgeon who was literally just like a gift. And he just did like anything to like help me. He knew I was young. He knew I was a young mom. Like I had a young family. And I was being fed all this information about, oh, you should now have a colostomy bag. Like you've had this so long. It's time. All these things were kind of coming down the pipeline, of course, very overwhelming, very scary. And in the meantime, I'm not feeling great at all, right? I had had a surgery. I was still on immunosuppressant. Literally nothing was still helping. And it was just very, very frustrating. And so I had went for a follow-up MRI about 4 months after that surgery. And unfortunately, I had 3 new holes, which are what fistulas are, right? Forming in my colon. And so we were going to be back at square one in like a matter of months with this surgery again. And
like a
so,
revolving door.
yes, it was just like this circle effect. And I was like, no, I can't. I mean, that surgery, I've had 2 cesarean children, and that fistula surgery was the worst recovery I've ever experienced. It was terrible. And I was like, I pleaded to my husband. I'm like, I cannot do this again. I cannot do this again. And so went for a follow-up to the surgeon because the GI was like, it's time for a bag. Go to the surgeon. He looks at me and says, no, you are way too young for a colostomy bag. I'm not doing it. And if your GI says that that's the only option for you, I'm going to advise you to seek care elsewhere. And so it was through him. He didn't know where to send me, who to refer me to, whatever. But he just empowered me to like take control, like find a different way. And he literally said, I think you should consider holistic options. I think you have nothing to lose. I mean, you're already at a point of like fight or flight. So what's the risk, you know? And I had gone home. In the meantime, he had said he would give me a referral to like a more reputable hospital that does more experimental care. That was going to take a long time to get into here in Minnesota. And so, you know, in the meantime, I was like, well, I'll just start searching around. So I came across this holistic clinic called Eating Elevated. It's here in Minnesota. And their tagline alone is what drew me in. And it said, he heals, we get to help. And so being a woman of faith, I was like, this is the place for me. I have to go. I got in a few days later, met a wonderful practitioner who heard me, listened to me, read everything, and literally was only there to help me. And that was the biggest difference I experienced right from the start versus any traditional medical I'd ever had before. And I just knew I was in the right spot.
See, I mean, first of all, I think one of the biggest things I'm passionate about is that our patients feel heard and understood. Yeah. And that, like, I do understand, and having been, like, raised in the conventional medicine system, like, academically, like, I understand that our job is to try and keep you alive. Like, that is the goal, or to some degree to, like, you know, eliminate some, even in this situation, we're not even eliminating discomfort for you. It's really just trying to preserve your life so you don't keep getting infected, right? And so that means removing feet of your colon. And that's our only solution, because you've gone through medications that weren't working, and your body is like literally eating itself. And, you know, so it's just a different focus is we need to go back to listening to the patient, which is preserving quality of life. And that is the difference, I think, in the way that we do care, which that life-saving type of treatment is necessary sometimes. But
For
I'm just
sure.
like, I just could not help it. I was so drawn to your story because, I mean, we really do think that that surgeon was an angel. Like, whether
A
he meant to
hundred
be or
percent.
not, he was really, he changed the trajectory of your life
A hundred
in
percent
what
he
he said.
did. And he had no reason to tell me that, right? Other than maybe he heard it too. Like, she doesn't
Mm.
need this. She has to go seek elsewhere. Like, she needs to find a different alternative. And I mean, yeah, I mean, God bless him, because I probably would have done it. If I'm honest, I probably would have just done the colostomy bag. Wouldn't have really thought much of it. Just that would have
Because
been
you were
where I'm at
desperate at
now.
that point. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Yeah.
not a stretch to say you almost died from being
No.
septic. Like having sepsis is a huge medical emergency, but having sepsis of the gut as your origin is like once that leak starts happening, it is very hard to stop.
Yeah.
Um, I could share stories. So the fact that you're
Yeah.
walking and living life is a miracle in itself, and then you have this other angel that points you in a different direction. Which, like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, to his point, like, what do you have to lose at that point? Going
Right.
the more holistic route. You're already on the verge of a life changing surgery. Like, why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so tell me what that journey, I mean, as much as you want to share of like starting to work with this holistic practitioner, like how long did it take? What did you do? What did that look like?
Yeah. Well, I'll just be very raw and real and say at first here of all the things I was about to encounter, I was like, yeah, right.
Mm,
I was very skeptical, mainly because, I also was not feeling super great at this time. I was dealing with all these things happening, and there was just a lot going on. And I just was like, yeah, you're going to press on my arm and tell me what supplements to take, and I'm going to be healed. Like, I did not want to believe that, but again, I was like, what do I have to lose?
right.
And so it was through a very lengthy method of applied kinesiology, and I did get on a parasite cleanse for a very lengthy amount of time, probably about 6 months. I was on a full, very detailed, very regimented parasite cleanse. And I was just taking a ton of supplements that were not only detoxing, but were also restoring, my gut wall lining and getting on the right probiotics, and being able to restore some of these things that the disease literally has taken from me. And I'll never forget. So I had started this in April, and I was due to have a follow-up colonoscopy in June. And so my mindset the whole time was, well, I'm going to just do this. I'm not going to tell my traditional GI about what I'm doing, because I want to know, like, for me, what are these colonoscopy results going to show? And so I didn't say anything, like, to anybody. And I went for my pre-op for my colonoscopy, and I was in the waiting room. He was about to come in. We were about to get started, and he's like, I mean, how have you been feeling? I've been telling him, and I was just like, well, I also want to tell you about something that I've been doing, without your knowledge, that I just felt the need to take control of, since we last saw each other. And I instantly, like, I will say about 3 weeks in of starting everything, I really did start to feel better. Like, I can't even explain it. Like, I don't even think I knew that I could feel any different than I was for so long. And so, like, 3 weeks in, it was like literally overnight. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, I'm already
Was it
feeling
like pain improvement or, bloating or overall energy? Like, what did you notice initially?
so my struggle had always been a lot of urgency with my Crohn's. It had always been like a lot of urgency, a lot of bloating, a lot of stomach, pain, and uh, discomfort and things like that. And like with the urgency, I mean, it's been uncontrollable at times, if I'm honest. And
Which is like
so,
a key symptom of IBD, Crohn's, and ulcerative colitis is that sensation. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so I would say almost overnight, like in that 3 week time, I started like passing all these parasites, and, things were shifting for sure. That was starting to diminish. It was starting to go away. And I was like, wow, again, I didn't know I could feel any different. And so it was just crazy. And so I definitely started to become a believer then. And then I was all in and I just did everything she recommended. And I just like was like, just don't pass go, just go.
Whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. So I get then 2 months later, to this colonoscopy. I'm telling him about all these things I'm doing. He's looking at me, raising his eyebrow, all the things. And he was just like, all right, well, we'll just take a look. And so I'll never forget being in that recovery room and him walking in and saying to me, wow, you might have made me a believer because you've had the clearest, inflammatory, I'd never had a colonoscopy where I didn't have something going on, some really present issue that we needed to tackle. And I had nothing. And he said, you barely even have inflammation right now, which is incredible for me having had this now, at that time about 18 years. It was insane. And so I just started crying and just thanking God for pointing me on this path and giving me this healing and really that surgeon, right, for directing me down this avenue. And I never looked back, and it was shortly after that I even stopped immunotherapy, and that was almost 3 years ago. And I've been medication free for almost 3 years after starting this journey.
Oh my goodness. Now, and have you talked to either of those? Since I'm assuming you have, but since those last interactions with them, have you shared more about subsequent visits since then?
Yeah, so I did end up calling the surgeon's office, and I never got to speak directly to him, but the nurse I worked closely with during all that time, I shared everything with her, and she was sobbing. She just was like, wow. And I know that he got the story, he got the message and the feedback. He charted me a message that said, wow, I heard about your healing journey. I'm so grateful, and just let me know if you need anything. And so it was great.
I hope that was validating for him of just having that need to not I mean, having that surgery, for those who don't know, is having an ostomy bag. That's what I'm assuming. It's when you you're removing part of your colon, you essentially have a bag that you wear for the rest of your life unless it's reversed. And so you can imagine being a young mom with young kids, that is a huge inconvenience, right? From a vanity standpoint, nobody wants to have to deal with that, either if they don't have to. Nobody wants that if they don't have to. And so he really helped preserve quality of life for you otherwise. And I just feel I'm just so touched by that, and that you were able to share that with your GI provider too, of wait, there's another way. And I want to kind of break some of this down a little bit on a sciencey side of what is actually happening here that's kind of in the conventional world, not in the conventional world. So if we break this all down, Whitney has an autoimmune disease. And an autoimmune disease is that her body is attacking itself. It is creating these antibodies and these mechanisms that are actually attacking her gut lining. Then there's other autoimmune diseases like Hashimoto's, where it's attacking the thyroid gland and causing damage there, irreversible damage there. Rheumatoid arthritis is your joints. Diabetes, type 1 diabetes is your pancreas. So there's many different forms of autoimmune disease, but we're literally attacking itself. So that is an immune dysregulation in itself. Now, our bodies are constantly trying to protect themselves from the world. And so our brain perceives threats all the time, all day, every day. And our immune system is connected to that. And so anytime we're heightening those threats, our immune system is also being triggered. So that's just kind of bare minimum. Then we add this potential parasite thing. Now, the thing with parasites is that obviously we know that they are real. They are well documented. We know this. You can do lab testing and send it through conventional medicine. But there's a hierarchy in a way of what is CDC validated parasites that we know that if you go here and drink this water, it's going to cause a parasite, will cause very clear symptoms. And those are pathologic symptoms. Those are major known issues. Then there's other parasites that aren't CDC approved. So there's so much sliding scale of what is truly parasites that truly cause problems, and then data that validates it, and then everything else. And so my point is that when we, sometimes we just don't know. There aren't great test to truly nail down parasites, So there are tests that we do that at STAT that are a little bit more conventional, like stool testing. Then there's like naturopathic testing and biofeedback and things like that. So there's a few different ways of testing them. Some of them are evidence-based and some of them are not. Functional medicine helps those a little open-handed. And the reason why this matters for somebody with autoimmune disease is because when you have a parasite, your immune system is going to know it. And it's going to try and protect itself. So when you have an autoimmune disease plus parasites, how is Whitney going to protect herself?
Yeah.
Right? And so when we can remove one of those offenders, whether it's a virus, a parasite, a bacteria, or something like that in the gut, that essentially I think is probably a huge win, among other things.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I wanted to like break that down for our listeners.
So
like, what is a parasite?
I don't even know, even having been through like all of this, like I don't even know if I knew that.
Right. No, most people don't. I mean, we think about some common ones like pinworms and things like that.
Sure.
But I mean, there was a story, and this is a little bit, I don't mean it to be a scare tactic, but I mean it to be an example of an extreme where there was a story that came out, I think it was 24 or 25, there was a research article that came out, and there was a woman in Australia that had deteriorating mental health over the course of years.
Yeah.
And it was getting to the point where obviously it was interfering with her daily life. And they did a CT scan and they found a spot on her brain that looked abnormal. And so they had kind of assumed that it was going to be a tumor. And so they did an exploratory surgery to go in and remove what they thought was probably a tumor on her brain, affecting her emotions, affecting her depression, and all of those things. Mm-hmm. And it turned out to be a parasite.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was probably a life-saving procedure for her in itself, but
sure.
there is no test that she could have done to have known that. And so that's just an extreme case of like, there's not a blood test, there's not a stool test, there's not, there are cases where they are extreme. Anyway. And so like, so that's just a plug between like the immune system and parasites. There's a lot of gray area there. I'm not saying everybody needs to do parasite cleanses, but for you, it was a huge deal and healing.
Yeah.
I think
for me, I truly believe that was the source of my active Crohn's. Like, truly, because once I started getting rid of them, and for those that don't know, you get rid of them through stool, and yes, they're visible, and no, they're not pretty, and mostly they're not alive. So it's all the things you think, but I just remember like when I passed the first one, I was like, wow. And then I remember thinking, I've seen this before. I've seen
these before. And you just didn't know.
And I didn't know. Mm-hmm. And I've done stool sample work. I've done all that for years in traditional, medical care. But like you said, if you don't test for them, you don't know that they're there. I just remember when I spotted the first one, I was like, I've been seeing these over the course of years, like, and not knowing like that's what it was. And then I had passed what I called the mother load. And it was like probably about 6 weeks in, I had passed like this really long, disgusting worm. And it was amazing how much better I had started to feel after that.
And that was 6 weeks on a treatment.
6 weeks.
And that's something that we see, I would say, in our patients is that we're realizing that, it's not uncommon to do treatments for like 2 to 3 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks. Sometimes we don't stretch them out quite long enough. So for you to stay committed, you start to feel better, which helped you on course, motivated. But also 6 weeks or 8 weeks, up to 12 weeks sometimes is more of like a beneficial time frame because it takes time. Yeah. Did you do any moon cycling?
Yes, I was just going to say, and I passed more over the full moon.
Yeah.
And I would do detox saltwater, like foot rinses, like underneath the full moon on my back deck, and all my neighbors thought I was crazy. And I mean, people I tell about this journey, they still think it's a little crazy. And if I'm honest, I probably do too. But I always say at the end of it, the craziest thing about all of it is that it freaking worked. Right. You weren't doing it for fun.
It was because you were at the end of your rope and you were desperate at that point, rope.
Yeah.
And so you did, how long would you say the parasite cleanse was all in?
I was on some version of the cleanse pretty consistently for about 6 months. And then, I would say the first 12 weeks, it was definitely like very heavy. Then we started to pass a lot and get rid of a lot. And so I would keep testing for the parasites through applied kinesiology, and they would get less and less. And so as they would get less and less and my body would detox, I would have the opportunity to come down on certain supplements and things like that. And then we'd kind of replace more nutrients. But parasites were priority in my condition. And so we got rid of those first, and then we started to replace nutrients. And then, yeah, it was incredible just how much more energy I had, just how much better overall I started to feel. Even just mentally, right? Because like I'd been bogged down by this disease since I was 18. And I mean, when you think about your life at 18 and now, I'm approaching 40 in a year, not real soon, but just looking kind of back at that, like almost 20-year stint, is just like, wow, I can't believe like that was the first half of my life. Like,
Right.
yeah.
And something you'd mentioned applied to kinesiology a few times, and this is a technique used by alternative medical practitioners. So a lot of chiropractors use this, naturopaths, osteopaths, and it's an alternative or complementary tool when it comes to alternative medicine. I am not trained in that technique, but I have heard many, many, many patients that have benefited from it. So it's almost like acupuncture. Like, I don't understand how this works. But when you are in a supportive healthcare environment, you'll know where your end of scope ends, where your scope of practice ends, and where somebody else's begins. And then suggest like, hey, maybe you should look into that, because being a conventionally trained, nurse practitioner who has not been trained in kinesiology, like I understand like that's a tool that somebody else has that I don't have, and that's okay.
Sure.
Like I can use some of the conventional things and look at like outside of the bus stool. So did you ever do any sort of, other than applied kinesiology, did you do any other form of testing in the alternative medicine way, like stool testing? Or blood testing?
I never did any stool testing. I actually was there recently, and they had said like, well, if you'd want to do something now just to see, I haven't really been symptomatic or anything, but occasionally I'll eat something that will still flare up things and whatever. And I mean, that's going to be normal for me. I mean,
And like inflammation is probably always going to be the bedrock of like what you focus on as just like a human in general. And a lot of us are, but there are people who just walk around. If you're an autoimmune type patient, you probably walk around with more inflammation than most do, or more typical immune systems do. So, wow, man. So that's 20 years. And how old were you when you had your second child, your son?
My second child I had at 34, and so my first one was born at 28, and I was on immunosuppressants with both of them. Different ones, but I was on immunosuppressants with both of them. And I would say I was always told in the OB world that pregnancy will be great, like your Crohn's will stabilize. That was not the case for me. In both experiences, my Crohn's never leveled out. It was, in fact, with my second, it was very much heightened. Yeah.
Right. Yes. Right. I see that too as well. There's an interesting, I would say, like shift in your immune cells. We call them like Th1, Th2, that they kind of do some shifting in the body where they're not doing so much defense as protection. And so you see the people going in remission. I would say one of my best friends has Crohn's, and she has not had, she had 4 kids and has never gone back into having those issues. And so that's not uncommon. Then there's like the 1% of people who like get worse almost during that time. So wow, like what a journey. And so now what is like health maintenance look like for you right now?
Yeah, so I'm still on like a supplement regimen just for like daily replenishment. So I'm in the hair world, so I'm around a fair amount of chemicals. I mean, I do use a lot of clean products and cleaner things than I used to 20 years ago, that's for sure. But because of that, I'm still on some chemical detoxers and things like that, just making sure my metals and chemicals are not affecting my inflammation, as you said. And I'm on a supplement, chlorophyll complex as well. That's like my favorite one. I don't know why, but when I take that one, why, I'm sure. But when I take that one, I just feel like everything's buttoned up. Like it
Hmm.
just feels like, okay, if I miss this one, like I know it, and if I'm on it just like I'm supposed to be, everything's just like kind of buttoned up.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense. Chlorophyll can be an antioxidant for your cells, so I can see how like your
sure.
mitochondria, your like cellular energy and inflammation and all of those things can be optimized when you're taking that. That would make sense to me.
Sure, yeah. And then more recently, I did just start the peptide journey
Hmm.
with BPC 157. And I've been on it for about 6 weeks now. And that has really shown some great results in just like inflammation overall. I don't know that I specifically see a lot of gut like repair, or I don't notice much with my gut as I do like my overall inflammation, like from what I do for a living, right? So like in the hair industry, I'm always using my hands. I have
Yeah.
arthritis in my knuckles and things like that. And I don't really have any pain like that.
Oh,
Now
that's
having
all
been on
better.
BPC
Wow,
157.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Now remind me,
that,
are you doing an injection or are you doing oral?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm on the injection.
Yes,
Yeah.
I will say BPC 157, there was some changes through the FDA in April that brought them back to market from an injection standpoint, so it's much more widely available right now. We had been resorting to using PDA, which is similar but different.
Sure.
And so BPC is a very safe, from what we are seeing, is a very safe peptide to use and very anti-inflammatory without it causing the negative side effects of an anti-inflammatory like ibuprofen or something like that.
Sure.
And so
Sure.
great supporter. There's many ways to take it. You can take it orally, you can take it as a pill, as a powder, or as an injection, even topical. And so think of injections as being great for systemic, so joints, brains, things like that.
Yeah.
A little harder to target the gut unless you're taking a
Sure.
powder form. And I'm sure when you did your healing journey with the gut, you probably had some powders brought in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, in the early part of it, yes.
Hmm.
And I'm spacing on what it was, but
Sure.
you'd
It's
probably
like a
recommend a few.
glutamine or a
Yes,
colostrum or
L-glutamine was
something.
one for
Yeah.
sure, and
Immunoglobulins or
yeah,
colostrum, or maybe you would take that out. But so love peptides. I actually started taking some myself
yeah.
recently, where we're combining with like BPC 157, TB 500, and GHKU, like the copper peptides. So that's
Oh
what I'm using
yeah,
lately. So so far so good. I mean, I
yeah,
hear that my skin looks good lately.
yes. I was gonna
Um,
say you're looking flawless.
Thank you. I was like, I also like updated some of my other my skincare stuff. But so
Yeah,
talk to me a little bit about like, I think what we forget is that this all didn't happen in a silo. Like you didn't experience this alone. You
yeah,
experienced this in motherhood, in
yeah.
marriage, in your family, in your community. So like talk to me about like what motherhood and marriage and like extended like community, like how did that affect like how did that hard season affect those relationships?
Yeah, very much.
Hmm.
So I met my husband, my now husband, when I was first diagnosed with Crohn's disease. Like literally,
Wow.
we met a month later, I had gotten diagnosed.
Wow.
And, he could have left. Like it was insane. I was miserable. I was on this, I was on that. I was on the steroid journey for like a year. And if you know anything about steroids, like the
Oh,
road rage
right.
is a real thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, not to mention all the lovely other side effects of like
Yeah.
weight gain and all these things, and so not ideal, I mean, for anybody, but certainly as a female with body image and things like that. So,
Mm.
that season was very difficult for us, more so me, of course. He's always been like really supportive and very patient, but yeah, I think if he would have left, like said, I don't know if I want to do this, like nobody would have blamed him. I certainly wouldn't have. Like
And
I
you're
wasn't
young. I
thinking
mean,
that,
like right after
Yeah.
high school, right?
Yeah, well, I had graduated at 17 actually. So I had just graduated hair school at 18. So yeah,
Oh,
and
wow, yeah.
he's older. So
Oh,
he's older
okay.
than me. A few years, just a few years. And so he had just graduated college actually.
Okay.
So we were still young, of course,
Sure.
but we were in different seasons of life, but entering kind of about the same season, that's for sure. So that was hard, but, we stuck it out. He stuck with me. It was all great. And then, over the first surgery particularly, that was really tough too, because that did kind of merge into the time like after we got married and we were thinking about kids and things like that. So then that kind of, it just really was difficult. It was very difficult. And I don't know this like for sure. I don't know that I ever had like extensive testing like done to confirm this, but I struggled to get pregnant, and we were married like 4 years, I think, before we were able to have our first one. And it was total just like, we were on the verge of entering like fertility conversations and potential like procedures and things like that. We never did. I mean, praise God, we didn't have to go down that route. But I do believe that all the medications I had been on for so many years played a role in that. Yeah. And again, I don't have any like firm confirmation on that, but that, I mean, even just looking back and just like the journey overall, I do believe. So that was hard. And it was hard for me to accept that because, of course, it was hard for me also to feel like it wasn't my fault. Right. And so,
as if we could control it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I felt really robbed in that experience, if I'm honest. It was like, okay, I've done all the things, right? I've gotten married. I've built a business. I've done all these things. And now it's like time to start a family. And then it was difficult. And it was difficult to have my second too. My kids are 6 years apart, if you didn't notice from what I said earlier, 10 and 6 or 10 and 4, sorry. And that wasn't our plan either. We did lose in between one. And so it was just, again, I just kind of was met with that. And, I hadn't done anything different. So I guess I don't know why I expected different results at the time, because I had still been on immunosuppressants. I think I had just wrapped up like another surgery like before we got pregnant for the second time. And both were pure surprise. Like, we tried all these things, and it's just like they say, like, open a bottle of wine and whatever. And I mean, both really did kind of hit in kind of moments like that. So, and again, just, I do believe that was totally a God thing. And, we were just meant to have them when we were to have them. And it all worked out, but not without its struggles, that's for sure. And I mean, along the whole time building a business kind of in parallel to all of that was a struggle too. And I have a very like active job, right? I don't sit behind a desk all day. I'm on my feet 10, 12 hours a day. I'm servicing clients and new clients, every 3 to 4 hours. And just the energy level that takes while trying to grow and scale a business, it was defeating. I mean, it definitely defeated my spirit, my body, of course. But it was just one of those things though too, knowing what I know now, looking back, it's like, wow, I really thought that was like the best I was ever going to feel. And I just dealt with it. And it is kind of sad knowing that like now in this season, I am doing so much more, and I have to believe it's because I have the capacity, like energetically and health wise, to do more.
Right. And God doesn't make mistakes.
No.
He doesn't make mistakes. And, really just like looking at our bodies, like, yes, we live in a fallen world, but he doesn't make mistakes on like what he gives us. Right. And like, it kind of played out the way it needed to play out. Like, you have the sons that you have. Right. Yeah. And a month before or a month after would have been a totally different child. And, and the community that you're growing now and the business that you've grown, like it's just like everything has its time. And thank you, Lord, for that, because like, isn't it always like the unanswered prayers, right? Like that we sometimes the unanswered prayers. What's that Garth Brooks song?
It's definitely a country song, that's for sure.
Sometimes when we look back and have like the silver lining is like such a time as this, like you have the energy and capacity for right now. Like, would you have squandered it then? Sort of thing. And it's just like, thank you, Lord, that you don't make mistakes, And so like, and obviously like that experience has shaped you in a lot of ways into your future.
Yeah.
So like, well, what do you think are some of the things that you brought out of that season that kind of has shaped your perspective now?
Yeah, I think about that a lot because I don't think that I would have been able to build what I have or to grow now something even new had I still been stuck in kind of that journey, that healing journey, right? Tenacity comes to mind for sure. Like a lot of tenacity, a lot of ambition. And I mean, people who know me well would probably say that I've been the most ambitious person they've ever known, but now it's just like on speed or something. I don't know. But yeah, I do feel like newly energized and kind of coming out of that. And, I think like I dealt with that as kind of this silent battle for so long and something I was always just dealing with kind of behind the scenes. I didn't realize like how lonely that actually felt. And especially like not just in motherhood, but like even building and growing a business. And I think when I think about the Grow Her community, that's really where that was birthed out of, was loneliness. I mean, truly. I have been a solo entrepreneur for 10 years. And I was, before that, I had managed and been a GM of salon chains and things like that. So I'd always been surrounded by community. But having this silent battle that I was fighting alone and now finally on this healing journey, I didn't want to be alone anymore. I just was like, it's time to invite people in. I know that I was put here for this time to be able to share and show others that they have potential to accomplish things too, no matter what they're going through, no matter, what they might be also fighting on their own. So it really excites me when I think about like the inception of Grow Her and where we are now. We started with 4 people on a Wednesday morning for coffee, and we've been meeting on a Wednesday morning for 3 years, and we're up to over like 40 people monthly and growing now. And we're hosting a huge conference at the end of this year in the fall, and you're all invited to come.
I would love for you to share that information with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I will. And it's just like incredible. But, you're so right. I think about like, would I have even been able to like dream at this capacity, had I still been kind of stuck in that journey of my health? And no, I don't think so at all. Yeah.
Man, what a gift,
Yeah.
And it's like we look back on those like hard seasons and we can look and see that what we brought out of it and how it serves us now. And like none of us want discomfort and heartbreak and pain and loss. Like we don't want those things, but they change us.
They change
We
us.
never leave the same whenever we experience anything. But nothing goes like unused,
Yeah.
And like, so I think we can all take, I know I can literally name the things that I'm like, I would not have chose that, but I'm better for it because he brought us through it, And so, okay, you told us a little bit about it. So, tell me a little bit more about like what the early days of Grow Her is and like how it's changed over time, like what your vision was then and like how that vision has changed to the community now.
Yeah. It's such a cool story, honestly. It was born out of loneliness. What ended up happening is I had this idea when I was pregnant with my second son. Originally at that time, it was called Coffee Connection Community. And I was like 8 months pregnant and just was like, I want to start this thing and I want people to get together for coffee and, talk about business ideas. And, it was just more of like a networking thing, but more on the social side. And there wasn't really structure to it. And then, of course, I had my second child and I was like, yeah, this has got to be on hold. It's, not the season. And so he was about, I don't know, a year and a half or so kind of after that whole kind of concept started. And then I was like, you know what, I'm going to circle back to this. Like, it was like God was telling me, yeah, now's the time. And so I circled back to the idea. I didn't really know who I was inviting. I mean, I know a lot of people, obviously, in the entrepreneur space and in the hair world, certainly. But I was like, it would be so cool if we actually invited people of all industries and not, kept it to just one singular industry. And so I invited a boutique owner. I invited a makeup artist. I invited a realtor. I invited, I don't know, I just really anybody I had met. I was like, hey, you want to come to this thing? We're going to meet Wednesday at 9:30, and here's the coffee shop or whatever. And yeah, that was the whole idea. And so when we met that first time, I had no expectations for what it was going to be, to be honest. I just was like so excited that we were bringing community together. We were all business owners, and that I was just expectant to see like what was going to come of that. And so that first meetup, there were 4 people. We probably were there till like 1 in the afternoon. Like none of us would, zip it. We all were like, just da 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 da.
So 9 to 1:30, is that what I heard?
Yeah, it was a long meetup. But it was so great because everybody had been feeling the same thing. Everybody had been feeling like lonely in where they were in seasons of building and business too. And the only thing I came to that Coffee Connect at that time with was like a question. And it was like at the start of a new year. And I literally just said like, I'm a word of the year gal. Is anybody here? And they were like, yeah, I think so. And so then I just shared my word of the year. Everybody shared theirs. And then that stemmed conversation. And it was very quickly visible to like me that everybody wanted some sort of structure out of this. Like everybody was seeking more growth than just conversation. And so I, with all my past experience of growing, scaling businesses, and then also helping others do theirs, I was like, okay, I know a few things. I can put together a few things. And we just kind of took off. So then we started having monthly themes, and then I started inviting other people in the community to share their skill set and their expertise, because I'm a learner too and I wanted to grow too. So it wasn't just about me leading, it was about equipping others to feel comfortable enough to share their gifts too. And it was just like, it's been pure magic, and we've been doing that ever since. And where we're going today is we're growing, we're building, we're moving into things like a day conference at the end of this year into next year. We're starting a Bloom Her fund where we're going to maybe nonprofit wise. We're not sure yet how it's going to look, but like we want to give back to.
We know people that can help here, right?
We know people. Yeah, we know people. That's right.
The nonprofit world is like, it's not my world, but it's like a whole world.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I know. I don't know much about it either, but you're right. We know people. And, but it's just, it's always been about putting people in rooms to show them their potential as if they were looking in a mirror from somebody else who sees them, gets them, wants to help them. And that is the entire mission of Grow Her. It's how can we be like most generous with our gifts and our callings and step into those so we can help and show others that they can do the same.
Oh, it's so good. I can't wait to see what this next year looks like. What's your if you could dream, no ceiling, what would the next few years look like?
Yeah, I think we'd really lean into that. How do we support young entrepreneurs, whether that's financially or even equipping them as like Grow Her coaches, potentially, and developing kind of programs, and maybe even partnering with like local DECA programs or local entrepreneurship classes, like in schools and things like that, to just really empower females. I know when I was in high school, I didn't know I wanted to own a business, right? I didn't know I wanted to be in the same industry for as long as I have been. I didn't really know. I didn't have aspirations like that. But I do know that I was seeking wanting to help. And I think that the generation coming up behind us, they're in the same boat. And if we could just even give them some spark, some, here, I'll take your hand, I'll show you the way, that sort of thing. If we could do that as a community, I mean, that's just generations of impact. And I feel like that's literally what we're all called to do, right?
Oh my gosh, let's
Like, how do we
go.
impact?
Let's go.
Yeah.
Like, I want to
Yeah.
be a part of that. Like who doesn't,
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur, I think that a lot of entrepreneurs would say, like, I want to be something to someone else that I didn't have. And that doesn't necessarily mean
Yeah.
that the community around us didn't support us, but it sometimes can be a pretty lonely experience depending on
Yeah.
who your team is and who you have around you. Like, I am fortunate to have a team that kind of went before me. And so in some ways they have a lot of what I need. In some ways they don't. And it can be
Yeah.
uniquely like lonely in a way of like you're surrounded by people every single
100%.
day and still feel that loneliness. So we want to be that to someone else and be that word of encouragement that we didn't necessarily have at the time. So for
Yeah.
that girl, so this could be health related or it could be to an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
If you had
Yeah.
something to tell them that's encouraging, what would that thing
Yeah.
be?
I think I would tell them, advocate for yourself in all realms, right? So in your health, in your business, in your goals, in your dreams, advocate for yourself and just leverage yourself to whatever that looks like, whether it's seeking a second opinion or it's, reaching out to somebody who's gone before you or, joining the conference or, even if you have to go alone, like, surround yourself with community. Community has literally, I think, always changed my life, and being kind of in the right room, not even knowing it at times, has always been so motivating and inspiring for me. And if I could just empower one other person to do the same, just imagine the impact, what that would look like for a community coming up behind me, behind them. And I mean, all of that to say, like, that makes us all more like Jesus, It makes us all more like Christ, and being the hands and feet and helping and inviting to the table, things like that. So if nobody's invited you, invite them. Invite
Right.
them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. If nobody's creating the spaces, you can create the space.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story so openly with us. I know
Yeah.
it's like a vulnerable thing to kind of share your medical journey
Yeah.
along the way. And I think what stands out is that healing is not a straight line. And sometimes people have to step in and advocate for you. And it's come through seasons that you wouldn't have chosen for yourself. But it's just a beautiful, beautiful reminder to listen to your bodies, advocate for your health, lean into the people around you and the support that you have. And maybe the most important thing here that's kind of come out of it is that community was birthed out of that. And that's such a cool gift that the Lord has given you through that. So thank you so much for coming. I'm so grateful for you. We're going to share in the show notes the link to the conference and the Grow Her community. I would love to hear more about dates. I know that you've started sharing some of that already that I've seen online. I want to look into that.
Yeah.
So if you're in the Minneapolis,
Yeah.
correct? Minneapolis
Yeah,
area?
yeah, or you want to travel.
Oh,
I
right,
mean, it's beautiful
exactly.
here in
Like,
September.
yes. Okay. There's so much going on in the fall. So like find your thing and go
Yes.
there. So I would love for you to
Yeah,
share your stuff
for
with me.
sure.
And so I'll put that in the show notes. And thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely. And thank you. And thank you just once again for stepping into your calling. I mean, you went a traditional route, and look at you. You're advocating for yourself, saying, like, I think there's another way. And you are the real reason for people like me. So thank you so much, Athena. And I'm just so honored to be on here with you and to know you and get to be your real life friend. So what a gift.
Man, what a gift Amplify was, really. It was such a gift.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for coming. And thank you guys for listening to the show. So we'll talk to you soon. All right. Thanks for being here. Until next time, keep choosing what supports your health in real life.